this is Marina from Darkstar Astrology bringing you the full moon in December, which will fall at 19 degrees of Gemini. It's going to be Quincunx Saturn, and the healing crystal I chose this time is the Snowflake Obsidian. It will be on fixed star Hoedus II in the constellation Auriga, and the tarot card is the Nine of Swords. So this moon is very much the super parent. The star of Hoedus II, it's actually two goats that are sitting in the lap of a mother goat who is sitting in the lap of a guy driving a chariot. So it's, yeah, you can see it's kind of quite full up. So with the moon in this decan as well, decan 2 of Gemini, there's often a feeling of being torn between parental duties and its own passions. The passions can be career, one's life, calling, or simply uncontrollable pleasure seeking. There's also the problem of wanting to be everything to everyone and spreading itself too thin. So there are a myriad of possibilities with this moon. The most negative manifestation of this position can be the archetypical narcissistic parent who doesn't have a nurturing or protective bone in their body. They may well have many children, however, but this is just so that they can have a troop of adoring mini-me's to follow them around. And this, I mean, I'm just thinking of Madonna and also, who's the other one? Angelina Jolie. You know, it's the token adoption of children from, disadvantaged backgrounds as well, or faraway exotic countries. Now it also conjures up the image of Sibylle. Oh no, sorry, it's pronounced Sybil, who had this entourage as well, and she was the goddess who travelled on the back of a chariot as well, which it's similar to the constellation of Auriga that's found here. So with Sybil, it brings up the mummy dearest archetype of Joan Crawford, who actually, also another one, adopted 5 children but was very strict and controlling of them. The moon here swings between very hardworking and going completely debauched when the wound up coil is released. On the opposite side of the maternal spectrum are the parents who run themselves ragged for their whole family out of a sense of guilt. Then there are those who are the ones trying to be a super parent, who are trying to hold down a high-powered career with a demanding family as well. So speed can be a drug with this at this time, and we can get used to the adrenaline buzz from this roller coasting behaviour. Yeah, I did call this decan roller coasters and strategists as well. So looking at the fixed star, as I said, this is the charioteer carrying the mother goat. Now, Diana Rosenberg, who also wrote a great couple of books on fixed stars, she suggests in her findings that the chariot could symbolise a wheelchair, and she points out that, I can't pronounce this, Eric Thonius, the charioteer, was actually half human, half snake and could not walk. And in her book, she depicts Auriga as a war veteran in a wheelchair, still carrying that goat family. It can also be a single parent juggling work while bringing up a family. And sometimes it's accused of having an issue with emasculation due to their love of fast cars and fast women. It can be seen as overcompensation. So if Auriga stars describe a male single parent, then he could feel his manhood is compensated by having to play mummy. But in reality, a parent of either sex may have to rein in their desires for the sake of their children. But if you're a celebrity, obviously not, because you'll be able to pay nannies and everything, so you can adopt as many kids from Malawi or wherever you want, and it'll just, it's just virtue signalling, isn't it? So now, the desires are represented by the 2 kid goats, and these twin stars have a dubious reputation, according to George Noonan. Now, he says, when rising indicates a native who may be petulant and lascivious, one who is said to be involved in depraved and vicious desires. Now, I have to say, I have this rising, so I don't know. I think this is my shadow. Oh, anyway. But generally, the constellation gives happiness, confidence, a desire to address social problems, and great interest in the education of children. But since Erythonius was abandoned by his mother, his serpent bottom half actually disgusted her, and brought up by Pallas Athena, I think adopting handicapped and disadvantaged children may be an attribute of Gemini Decan 2. And I was thinking also because the subject could themselves feel ugly, deformed and rejected as some kind of freak. So if they adopt somebody who comes from such a deprived background that they feel that this person is, well, they can look up to them as their saviour, really. And that way they're guaranteed worship from someone who's so grateful to have this person adopt them and sees them as this wonderful, beautiful person, even though inside they may feel, ugly. So the only aspect to the moon is a Quincunx to Saturn as well. Now this Saturn is conjunct Venus and Pluto as well. So really, actually, the moon is also Quincunx Venus and Pluto to some extent, but it's closest to Saturn. Now, Venus, Saturn as well is kind of about insecurity and can feel ugly also. But the meaning for Moon Quincunx Saturn, it's responsibility. So again, it breeds extremely disciplined, organised and responsible individuals. They may have had to grow up very quickly due to the loss, mentally or physically, of one of their parents. It's funny, Madonna just keeps coming into my head again, because, again, she lost a mother very young. And it's like, obviously she did suffer some trauma also. So, the way anyway, I don't want to go into too much of talking about her as being a Illuminati puppet, but she is, and I really want to study her chart in depth at some point. And just let me know if you want me to do it. Maybe people are more interested in Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell at the moment than Madonna, but there's something very she's freaking me out lately with the Madam X thing and looking like a corpse. She actually looks like a corpse. So with Moon Quincunx Saturn, this is the quintessential balmy headmistress or master. Again, she's going senile. She looks like a senile, demented old woman. Sorry. But she doesn't look old. That's the freaky thing. But it is like when the narcissist gets older and just gets more and more, just melts down basically because they've lost their youth and their power. But with the going back to this moon, its vibration, its energy is a solid air of authority and a stoic approach to life. But the Quincunx does add a really balmy, wacky sense of humour and an unusual approach to problem solving as well. It may seem to take the traditional approach to management, but they also have the knack of throwing a curveball into situations which throws people sideways. So it's not a straightforward Saturnian energy at this moon, this full moon. It's got that left field sort of coming from an unexpected direction. And of course it's Gemini as well. So is it going to be the good twin or the evil twin? So the tarot card associated with the decan is the Nine of Swords. Now, as I said before many times, the air signs are stuck with the swords as representing them. So the imagery is never going to be that positive. But we have to read this not so personally, but also as reading it as lessons learnt in other lifetimes and karma that may have already been paid back. And because Saturn's involved with this full moon as well, there's a lot of karmic stuff to be cleared out as well. It's probably the most karmic of all the decans, where the past has accrued many paybacks and unfinished business with relationships. So to quote Teach Me Tarot, your past may have caught up with you, or something you thought dealt with, done and dusted, has reared its ugly head and resurfaced once more, bringing all its unpleasantness with it. This may be on a physical level, but more likely a return of some inner demons or past nightmare, which has thrown your mental equilibrium out of balance. Something from your past may have come back to haunt you. Now, I mean, this could also be anyone touched by this full moon, which I will be, for sure. I'm just wondering what's going to come back to haunt me. So if you're in the same position, just make sure you get good night's sleep. And what I recommend, which is what worked wonders for me, is CBD drops. It's the marijuana without the THC. And I've been having really good sleep since that, and no nightmares either. So that's a good one. Now, my own interpretation of this card, I just take this to mean that natural law will come back to bite you in the foot if you try to mess too much with nature and play God. But those who do work with nature will be spared the nightmarish scenario seen on this card. Hooray! I do work with nature. Well, I try. So the healing crystal for this is the Snowflake Obsidian. I think it's a funny name as well, because obviously in 2019 we have snowflakes. So this is for all you snowflakes out there. So the healing energy of this stone will help you achieve balance in your body, mind and spirit. Whatever is causing you fear, pain or worry will be removed. So no nightmarish Nine of Swords. It will calm and soothe you. It will reassure you that there's no need to feel afraid when you know that you always get the support that you need. It's also a stone that's associated with divine guides and spirit guides. The Snowflake Obsidian is a reminder that they are just watching over you and pulling you close in a warm and protective embrace. Aw, sweet. So that's a quote from crystalsandjewelry.com. And healing crystals say that in general, obsidian is a very grounding and protective stone. It is used as a great cleanser of negative energies, helping to remove not only negativity experienced in the environment, but also of one's own emotions such as anger, jealousy, greed, resentment, etc. Obsidian is often used for healing and releasing energy blockages, and has a tendency to work quickly to move truths to the surface and be resolved. So yeah, I just think that's so handy. And the reason I chose it as well is that I like the fact that it's kind of black and white. So that's very Gemini. And it's got these little they almost look like little poppies and little red bits as well, some of them. So I like that, fits with the whole design. And the second face of Gemini. So this is the Picatrix. A man whose face is like an eagle and his head is covered with linen cloth. He is clothed and protected by a coat of leaden mail, and on his head is an iron helmet above which is a silk crown, and on his hand he has a bow and arrows. This is a face of oppression, evils and subtlety. So, oh dear, Gemini Decan 2 has a dark side, but that kind of fits really with the twins. So, every decan has its dark and light. And the thing with the darker decans, they show their dark side first, but there's always a light side. And if you've got the lighter decans, or the, lighter planets, but they also have a dark side. It's that, a coin has two sides. There's always a flip side. So we can choose to operate in the in the light or in the dark. And I have to say, if I hadn't really got astrology, or I hadn't had some teachers in my life to guide me away from the dark side, I think I could have been a lot more of the negative associated with Hoedus, petulant and lascivious. I think I was kind of like that when I was a teenager, and I don't think I ever got depraved, But vicious desires, maybe, possibly. I mean, if you've been brought up by a narcissistic mother, I could have very easily gone down that road. And yes, if drugs are involved, then they will definitely pull you towards the dark and into the underworld. So that's why it's so important to learn about toxicity, because the more toxins you pile into your body, the weaker it's going to be, and then the more it's likely to be infected because your immune system is down. And when I say infected, it's not just to do with physical biological diseases, it's to do with psychic attack as well. I mean, this is why that, following on from the last one I did, the Green with Envy, talking about my health issues, then, that's why it's so important to have a pure diet as much as you can. And I realise that because you can't be in this profession dealing with people who are in pain and have demons of their own, and to be able to help them without being fit yourself and healthy. And going back to Madonna as well, she was a huge idol of mine, and I kind of hero worshipped her for a long time, probably in my more like late 20s really. But she was starting to go down the really dark route then, when the Girly Show, from then onwards really. I think that's when she started to really go down peak degeneration. So this is the good twin and the bad twin. It's about responsibility and shouldering your burdens and accepting them, accepting that you sometimes can't travel lightly, if you've got kids, and you can't be, but at the same time, not running yourself ragged, because a lot of women are doing that in this world because of the situation that that you have to have a dual income house. And so anyway, I've talked about that loads before. My rant this week though, what's it going to be? Because there's so many things that are bugging me. Well, not bugging me really, but there's a lot to choose from. So I think the theme is motherhood, because it's to do with, are you going to be having to make the choice as a woman between motherhood and having a career, and also what is a woman? Because it's come to my attention that apparently I didn't know how bad it had got with this whole gender and pronouns, and how women are treated if they protest against men coming into their spaces. I've started to know, I don't go out too much, but then when I go into central London and go into toilets now, in the big department stores, Lovely Liberties, that my favourite shop, has now got gender neutral toilets, and they smell. And I felt so angry, because I thought, this is progress? That now women have to put up with the smell of, because, men obviously wee standing up. And why can't they have, this is what I don't understand. Why can't we have men and female toilets anymore? So this is something that's really bothering me. And then I found that there were some feminists who also agree with me. And then I thought, you know what? I feel like there's a need for feminists again. You know how I've been moaning about feminism and how it's ruined, done a lot of things that are quite destructive to family life and women. But this is third wave feminists I'm talking about. But there are a few that still count themselves as second wave feminists. And one of them, who I found on YouTube, she's amazing. And her name is Posey Parker. And she's been arrested. She's been arrested for hate crime because of her comments about transgenderism. And there's another, Megan Murphy, who's banned off Twitter. She's a Canadian feminist. I mean, this is unreal. And then also, and I've always liked Germaine Greer, but I stopped listening to her interviews because I assumed that she was, I hadn't really listened, I haven't really read any of her books, but I just remember thinking she was really down to earth, and I always quite liked her when I was very strongly feminist. But she's always been very strong on women's rights as mothers, you know, and not, again, she's second wave. And there's definitely a difference between second wave feminism and third wave feminism. And we do actually need it now because, and this whole thing about transgender athletes who were birth male suddenly doing gymnastics, doing athletics and beating the women. It's like real women, not cis women. Never going to use that expression. As far as I'm concerned, and here I go, I'm going to say it, and I don't care if YouTube bans me. Why should this be controversial? I mean, this is the thing. To say that I think anyone who was born with a womb is a woman. That's a woman. And obviously, a lot of women have hysterectomies. That's not what I'm saying, that they're not real women. But anybody born with a womb is a woman. And that's it. It's simple as that. If we're going to lie about nature, something that is a plain fact and turn that into a lie, no. And this is what Posey Parker says all the time. I mean, she's very strident in her activism. She's very strong about it. But I admire her. I don't agree with, she's obviously, she's not pro-life or anything. She's a mother of 4 kids though. So yeah, that's why we need feminism now. I think we should call it womanism though, because then we can have the definition of what is a woman? What is a woman? So yeah, this misgendering issue and the fact that police in England are wasting time pursuing people who call someone by the wrong pronoun when we have a shortage of police and an epidemic of knife crime in London. So we got like a reduced police force anyway with more crimes, and they're wasting time on hate speech, wrong think. What is the world coming to? So that maybe that's gone off on too much of a tangent from the original moon, but it is Gemini moon, and it's about responsibilities, and it's responsibilities to our children, and I mean, this is what Posey Parker's been talking about. I mean, she's saying really very vocal about the abuse that's going on to children who are taken to Thailand and castrated. And apparently you can't say that. You can't say that. And yet you have all these celebrities looking like they're wonderful people who adopt all these disadvantaged children and coming across as the best mothers in the world. We really care about the children. And yet none of them will stand up and question this abuse of children who are being taken by their parents to have parts of their body amputated, taken off. I just think it's really, really scary. And that, there's a lot of big hoo-ha about FGM, female genital mutilation. And yet in the West, what's going on with the transgender is seen as brave and wonderful. To me, they are similar. Maybe one of them is a lot more worse. But the thing is, these young children, once they transition, to put it politely, they can never have children. So you're taking away their right to reproduce forever. Whereas I know there's some horrible things that happen with FGM, and some can have infections, but I don't think they're not always going to be unable to have children. So I think one's worse than the other for sure. But again, I have to be careful in the UK because we don't have freedom of speech, and Posey Parker's had visits from the police. I think she was mainly attacking one person though, and I think it was the woman who took her child to Thailand, and she was quite abusive about it. I mean, I'm not like that. I wouldn't go that far. But I mean, the thing is though, she feels really passionate about it, and she is a feminist activist, so she does things in her way. But I do admire her for it, because that's brave as far as I'm concerned. And I think we do need more women to stand up for their rights as women, to be women, like biological women, and now having to fight to have their spaces safe again. That's the thing. Because even like abuse shelters now, they can't turn away transsexual men. So then this is where it gets complicated, because you're supposed to say, you're supposed to say trans woman for someone who was a male but is now a woman. But in my view, they're a trans male, because they're still men. They just look like women on the outside. And so, yeah, okay. So maybe I've made my point. But I just want to say, Posey Parker, Megan Murphy, Jermaine Greer, I salute you, and you've made me think that feminism is a worthwhile cause when it is done to protect women from this ridiculous gaslighting. That's what it is, gaslighting. And Posey Parker, who's a big fan of Ricky Gervais, who apparently made a joke. He was probably testing the water, so he made a sort of trans joke, and he got completely criticised for it. So now he's backpedaling, saying, I don't know what he said, so you'll have to read up about it. But she basically said, grow some balls, Ricky Gervais. I'm so disappointed in you, because she was a big fan of his. And I am too. I just think all these celebrities are playing into this, because they're in that world, aren't they? They're in bubble world. They're in make-believe world. And normal people just see the reality. God. So that's it. Saturn, Quincunx the moon, reality, accepting responsibility for your actions, and telling it like it is. So I think I'll leave it there. All right then. So thanks for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.